Hey guys, Chris here back with another vendor voice. And today I've got really exciting news for you. We've got one of our vendor partners on that we're going to talk about. But before we get going with that, we've got a few things for you. Going to be a little bit different. So I want you to stay tuned till the very end. We're going to give you some very good, tangible things you can go do to work on your business today. Today I got Max on with us. Max, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. How about you, Chris?
Good, man. I'm doing fantastic. Max, you and I were catching up a little bit before we started down this path for the interview for today. And I know you live, by the way, you live in the Big Easy, right?
Yep.
Right. Great town, lots of fun, lots of great food,
Yes,
but
sir.
also a lot of entertainment. So, Max, I'm just going to ask a little bit. Tell me a little bit about your background in entertainment.
So my background in entertainment goes all the way back to when I was really, really young and I was doing like the middle school plays like on stage, which I liked, but I didn't love. And then the quick story of it is I broke my foot playing football and my friend showed me a card trick and that's when the bug bit me. And ever since I carry a deck of cards with me all the time and love doing like card tricks and magic. So that's really where now I'm performing.
Awesome, cool. And
Yeah.
apart from that, obviously running a business and making things happen in our industry. And so we're going to talk a little bit about your service and offerings of what you guys do. But Max, before we get started on that, I think it'd be important for us to really let's just go both feet in, man. Like we're going to be super deep in today and talk a little bit about leadership and building companies. And then we'll talk a little bit about what you guys do. But for our listeners and those that are consuming our content, we want this to be super valuable. So I want you to help connect the dots as Max starts down this path of what we've got planned for you. And so I just want to start off with, you know, we're going to talk about benchmark and payment processing, all that stuff. We'll get to all that in a minute. But when you think about kind of starting a new software, what do you think are the similarities going back to your magic tricks? What do you see as kind of similarities between magic tricks versus starting a new software?
Yeah, that's a great question. I see a lot of comparisons. Let me start off with something real quick, and I think it'll be a good metaphor for it. So,
Okay.
I have this is an old thing here I picked up at an antique store down here. It's a hat pin, and then I have a matchbox that I grab from restaurants. Always have that bucket of matchboxes. So I want you to watch. Let's see if I can take this hat pin and push it through the matchbox. Now, on the surface, this doesn't look like anything crazy. It's just a hat pin going straight through a matchbox. Now, at that level, there's no magic. But when I open up this matchbox, you'll see that inside is this piece of metal. So there's no way that that hat pin can go straight through. So that's kind of a very, very simple trick, but also really direct explanation of what building a new software and magic and how they're related. There's nothing more simple than this. How does the pin go straight through this piece of metal? And that's kind of where, believing in the impossible and being in that leadership position, even if you have doubts, driving towards that, hey, how do we achieve the impossible? Because there's a way. This is a magic trick. There's a method that works with this. And even if you don't know that method, it appears as if it's magic. And that's how I feel like any great software company
Mm.
or HVAC company, electrical, they should run. It should have. There's a quote by Arthur Clarke, who was like a science fiction writer, that any great technology should appear like it's magic. And that's how I think any company should run. And that's at the fingertips in a way. Yeah.
What? Holy smokes. So I kind of want to rewind and be like, hold up,
Yeah.
man. Well, let's get behind the art behind how you made that happen. Because we know that most magic is an optical illusion, right? You trick the eyes to see something that was really very possible. And so I see the connection that you're making here, which is if you can see it in your mind, you can make it become a reality. And so a lot of times you can't see the magic trick in your mind because you don't know what goes into the inner workings, what I call the behind the scenes of a company, right? What you do
Exactly.
behind the scenes, like the Ritz-Carlton has what they call the 10 mystiques, right? That makes the Ritz-Carlton the Ritz-Carlton. Things that Disney does, that, underground tunnels so that people are transporting
Yeah.
garbage underneath, like just blows your mind. So maybe Max, as you think about that, what are some things that you experienced as you were kind of getting benchmark going in the direction it is? Because it was a whole new kind of venture for you guys, right?
Yeah, so when I started out with home services, we really didn't have a product that worked the way that it needed to for home service businesses. And I tried bringing on a couple clients and ran into the same problems over and over. And we said, let's just get this straight. If this is a space that we're involved in, and I love home services and owners, it's just such a great space. How do we build a product that's right for them? And it just started with an idea. And there was that idea and a couple of feature ideas. And then it took actually sitting and working with businesses saying, how does this look? How does this workflow work? And interviewing them and getting that consistent feedback that allowed us to build a product that was delivered the needs of the customer rather than saying, here's our product, hopefully it works for you. It's like we've custom built this product to be able to work in this space.
Well, and when I think about it, Max, I heard payment processors like, yeah, we're good with that. We don't need that. Don't leave yet. And this is the reason why, because I think that we should at least start talking a little bit about the differentiators. And then I'm going to come back to a few questions I've got for you in
Yeah.
addition to that and may have more. But tell me a little bit about what you feel like is because payment processors, I say this before, you charge 3.5, they charge 3.1. Great. I'm out of here, right? There's zero point 0.4 points that have fall straight to the bottom line. And
Mhm.
that's what I consider to be a commodity, right?
Yeah.
But they view the payment processor as a commodity, and usually the payment processor views the customer as a commodity. So there's real no connection or relationship. Max, maybe tell me a little bit about, and we don't need to get into the details of it yet, but tell me what differentiates you guys that you're not just a transaction.
So there are two main things I would say differentiate us. Number one is my customer service. I have customers on the East Coast and customers on the West Coast. And on the West Coast, it might be 9 p.m., but it's or sorry, 6 p.m., but it's 9 p.m. on the East Coast, and they're still calling me with a customer service question. And I'm Central, so 8 p.m. I will still pick up text or email because I know how important payments is. At the end of the day, that's the lifeline for the business. So I want to be accessible. That's really important as well as knowing how to navigate the relationships with a processor and how to solve things quickly. Sometimes payment processors put in a request, they put in a ticket. I don't put in tickets. I'm on the phone calling. So
Mhm.
that's one thing that's really differentiated us. I even have a current client from Blue Collar that is leaving the software they're with and moving to a new software. That software has an integrated payment processor, but because of the service we've given that merchant over the last year of being their merchant services provider, they don't want to even consider going with the integrated one. They want to use us, and we're now custom building a bit of an integration for that new software. So that's kind of the level that we're at, very customized and tailored.
So I want to go back to that. So when I think of merchant process, I don't even think of it being a quote software company, but maybe
Yeah.
tell me, Max, I mean, from startup to having 100 clients in 6 months, what was that like for you guys?
Um, a little bit overwhelming at times, but also it allowed us to grow quickly. Because the more clients you bring on, the more feedback you're able to get. And the only reason we were able to get that feedback and grow that quickly was because I was able to get that feedback. So
Mhm.
without talking to the customers and saying what is work, I would call new customers once a week saying what worked for you this week, what didn't work for you this week, anything I can do to help. And if it was I need to sit down and show them how to reconcile their deposits with the transactions, or whether we needed to sit down and do a more in-depth training with a technician or anything, I really got to understand what the roadblocks were to using the software or to whatever, to reconciling or whatever the issues were, and then build on that. So now I know all the answers to the top 10 questions that any customer has about using our software and how to best answer them. And so that would allow us to iterate really quickly.
Right. Well, I
Yeah.
want to just jump in with this new kind of concept here because For all of my Service Titan users, I know that they feel like, there's only one option, and that's Service Titan payments. But Max, maybe tell me a little bit about what Benchmark has done in a collaboration with them regarding that.
So before, when I didn't have a product that worked with ServiceTitan, merchants would have to duplicate information. So whether it was the customer's name, items on the invoice, the price, the customer's email, or they would have to go into a separate payment platform and enter all that information again, which is way too much work for a technician to do. That's not, they shouldn't have to do that. Let's say the customer was okay with that happening because the savings was that good. Then the technician has to go back into ServiceTitan and mark it as paid. But there's no real tie between that payment being marked as paid and the transaction that happened. It's marked, but there's no like transaction ID or marker to find that transaction. So
Okay, hold on, because I
yeah,
know exactly what's happened. I'm a contractor,
yeah,
and when a software said, "Hey, the only way you can use our software is you use our payment processor," and I don't want to use that, I'll figure a workaround. So
yeah.
my guess is we have people that are tuned in, watching and listening to this right now, and that's what they're doing. Maybe tell me a little bit more about your product that you guys offer.
Yeah, great. So we solved those two main blockers of using an outside processor. One is that our portal, for example, loads in all the invoices built in ServiceTitan automatically. And technicians in their version of the platform, they only see the jobs they're assigned to. So they pop open the platform, boom, they're on the job. They see that invoice right there. It's got all the customer information ready to collect a card payment. Once that card payment is collected, it automatically goes in on the back end and marks it as paid in ServiceTitan with a long letter and number code of the transaction for like the accounting team
Sure. Reference
to
back.
yeah, exactly. And so it eliminates all of the duplicate entry. If somebody is using a platform and they have to add in a markup to want to cover their fees, it takes away all of the steps that made it difficult to do what's called dual pricing, which basically offers the customer two prices, one price for credit card and then one price for anything else. And that price for anything else incorporates a discount. And that discount is basically the amount to cover all of the credit card processing fees.
Mm.
So it has the three main elements, which is no duplicate entry to take a payment. It automatically adds the amount to cover your fees, and it marks it back in ServiceTitan automatically. And
Mm.
that's just those were the three components. And then there's a bunch of bells and whistles that make it really pretty and really, really simple to use. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to get to it in a minute. We'll talk a little bit more about functionality of like how it works maybe, but
Yeah.
I just feel like Max, it probably would serve people better. The old saying is a picture's worth a thousand words, is to actually set up a demo with you guys to kind of walk through and explore what that actually would look like for their business. But what do you feel like is like your next thing when it comes to softwares? Obviously, when you're a software company, you're always thinking about the next iteration and the next iteration. What kind of timeline are you guys looking at for maybe a next version? And what do you think it would include?
Yeah, good, great question, because this is something I talk about just about every day and literally have dreams about. I had one last night about what's coming and what's coming tomorrow versus what's coming in 6 months type of thing. And this kind of relates back to something you had mentioned earlier about like roadblocks and building to a certain customer base, and it's all about prioritizing the features. So there's a list of 50 features that I have. The question is, which ones are next? And how much will that unlock more clients or more volume or whatnot. So the biggest feature that's coming next for us is going to be estimates and the ability to take a partial payment on an estimate. Every
Mm.
estimate payment is a partial payment. And so now we're coming out with the ability to take partial payments on estimates, which is a completely new back end integration that's really complicated, but it's going to look really nice and sexy and easy to use. Taking partial payments on just an invoice, as well as doing partial refunds from our platform, which we have now, but it's not perfect. And I want it to be perfect. So those are like hard features that are coming, like I was told this week, next week. I'm very certain they'll be available at the acceleration days. So we'll be able to show off some of those features, which
Okay.
is awesome. On a bigger picture type of thing, right now, the relationship with ServiceTitan is the main relationship, but we're building out this integration to work with many other different softwares, whether that's a House Call Pro, a Field Edge, a Field Pulse. There's so many other softwares out there that want to use our software, like merchants that want to use our software. So we're working on building out some more integrations so that we can help as many people as possible relieve their payments.
Yeah. I mean, we already talked about it, but service Titan integration, and it's like I remember my days, Max, of like, you know, being handcuffed to like you got no, you can only do it this way, and you can only use this, and contractors, we have a very, very tough spirit, and I think that it's hard to break us. And so where there's a will, there's a way, and so everybody finds a workaround, even if it is more painful. And so I'm excited to hear that Benchmark has created a workaround for it that's not painful. And while we're on, I mean, let's just talk. Tell me a little bit about Benchmark and what you guys do, because once again, I think of like merchant processor, I think of like a Stripe, right, or a Square, or whatever the other kind of big company is. Tell me what you feel like is some differentiators for Benchmark.
Yeah. So those are called aggregators, Square and Stripe, which are great payment platforms, but they don't necessarily have the flexibility that you have as like a company like Benchmark. And what I mean by that is the flexibility that we have is to match up a back end processor. So like the person who's actually processing, or the company that's processing the payment and funding the payment to the merchant's bank account, that's like the back end. And then on the front end, there's a software that the customer actually uses to take those payments. What I find our specialty is matching up a front end software and a back end processor for a specific industry. And that's what I've done in the home services space. There's another guy who works at Benchmark who's done it in the insurance space. Benchmark has been around for, I think, 18 years now, and has processes a couple $1 billion a year not revenue, in volume of how much we're processing. And I'm spearheading the home services kind of side of the company. And so it was new, and we didn't have a front end software. And so we went out and did a little bit more than we usually do, which is kind of help build the software and match it up with a processor on the back end. And every day I'm interested in thinking maybe there's a better processor that might be better on the back end, make faster funding times or whatever it is. And I think we have a really great product now, but I'm still always just open to learning about things on the back end. So yeah, that's kind of the specialty there.
Yeah, and let me say this: a good quote is managers try to find out, or managers figure out and fix what's broken. Good leaders figure out and enhance what's working.
Yeah.
Right. So if I'm hearing you correctly, it's like, hey, we could kind of just like push pause on this and be good just based on the way the product is, but good is not good enough for you. Always looking to innovate and recreate so that it's like how do we keep our competitive advantage. And I'd say this as home service contractors, like that's once again how do you stay more competitive in the marketplace, because if you do the same things that everybody does and you say the same things and you drive the same kind of trucks,
Mhm.
what's really the difference there, right? So we think about the secret sauce. Maybe tell me a little bit, Max. I know that we chatted a little bit briefly before we got started here, but tell me some things that a contractor could go do today that you think would help their business.
The number one thing I would think that can help a business, and this might be a little left, is interviewing your customers more, getting that feedback, even if it means going back to their house 2 weeks after a job and asking them what they could have done better in person rather than a review online, something that's kind of private. That's really helped me grow my business. And I know my business is very different than a home services business, but it's those moments when I'm kind of sitting in the lobby at an acceleration days with a potential client, and I say, just give me the real. What's one thing that you don't like about our platform that we can do? And they're like thinking about it. Then maybe the next day they go, you know what would be really cool if you guys did this. That's where you get the secret sauce from. And you have to have a
Mhm.
good relationship with them in order to do it. It's not, you're not meant to ask every single customer for feedback. You want to ask the people that are almost willing to open that door to be brutally honest with you.
Mm.
And that's where you're able to grow, because that's what everyone doesn't want to talk about in a way. Like the things that you're really not good at that really can make an improvement, because those whispers is what gives you the biggest amount of growth. And I've been fortunate enough to have good relationships with like a lot of blue collar members that will go out to a bar one night or hanging out at the hotel lobby. And they're like, you know what? This part, if you guys fix this part, we'll use you guys. And I'm literally on the phone the next day with my developer being like, how long does it take to fix this? This is the third person that mentioned this. Like, how do we iterate to get to this place?
Yeah.
And so that's what I think is the real secret sauce is talking to your customers more.
Yeah, interesting. I haven't watched the documentary on it, but there was a whole documentary that was done on, I think it was Cheetos and this like flaming hot thing that they did. And the
Yeah.
idea actually came from somebody that worked in the business, and how valuable it is. I said there's kind of two ways to go to market. Either you go to market with a product that solves a problem that nobody knew they had,
Hmm.
or you go to market with a solution to problems that people know they have. And
Yeah.
obviously, I would have never have guessed in a million years. I feel like, Apple, the cell phone company, quote the
Yeah.
vanilla company, if you would, which by the way, that's a really interesting commercial if you've seen that lately. That I think it's Google or someone has kind of went after Apple of like the vanilla phone. But I
Yeah.
think Steve Jobs solved a problem that people didn't know they had.
Yeah.
And so look at what an awesome brand that's been built here. But I'd say this to every contractor. What Max is talking about today is the ability to understand your customer and don't make assumptions with it, right? And here's the challenge, Max. Have you ever had anybody give you feedback that you're like, well, that kind of sucked. I hated hearing that.
Yeah.
How's
Yep.
that bother your ego though?
There's two ways to it. If you know that you're there to satisfy what the customer wants, no request is too small, and you should always be all ears to hearing them. Even if
Mm,
it's just in that moment making them happy that you heard them, or if you're actually taking that information and using it to make changes in the business, it's important that you're hearing the customer and you're hearing as an owner, listening to the advice of the technicians because they're in the work every single day in the weeds. And sometimes owners don't necessarily think the same because they're not seeing those same problems resurface that the tech see or that the customer even sees. So,
mm.
I'd rather get too much feedback than too little feedback.
Mm, wow. And here we are doing a vendor voice, supposed to be talking about Max and benchmark. And yet Max is like, hey, let me just tell you how we've kind of helped our business grow, which is, I think that's probably one of the most powerful messages that I could extract from today, apart from the fact that you need to give benchmark a call and do a demo, because just no way for you to be able to explain everything you do and how it works. And I'm going to come back to this.
Mhm.
Max said, if you ask, but you got to ask with the right intention of like, I'm not going to try to defend it. I'm not going to try to argue it. I'm just asking very open ended. And you
Yeah,
can seek to understand and make your business better by just asking, soliciting feedback. And once again, you said, Max, not through just an online review, right? An actual conversation with a previous client and with your team. So,
yeah,
Max, dude, thank you so much. Every time I get to do these vendor voices with people, I learn so much, and not only about them, but I learn just more business practice, and I enjoy getting to do these, and I know our listeners get to as well. Remember, membership has its privileges, and a part of the Blue Collar Success Group with your membership, you do have access to Max and Benchmark payments. You can find their contact information located on the left-hand side of the vault when you're going to go to the Elite Buy logo. You're going to scroll down to Benchmark, hit Max up, and be like, hey, man, heard you on the vendor voice. I'd like to do a demo. I'd like to ask you more questions, get to know more. Before we bounce on today, Max, is there anything that some stone that maybe we didn't uncover or turn over today that you feel like we should probably explore before we bounce?
yeah. The one piece of advice that I would give specifically about payment processing and the costs of it is look at your margins and see how much it would increase your business if you eliminated your credit card fees. If you're running a 30% margin, your fees are 3%, and you eliminate them, now you've increased your margin by 10%. So it's a really direct bottom line type of stuff that you should look at because
Mm,
it costs more than you think. And a lot of people think it's a cost of doing business, and it's the second highest cost after wages and or salary that you pay out is your credit card costs. So keep an
interesting.
eye for that. Yeah.
Max, thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it. And the magic trick. So let's circle back to that.
Yeah.
Is that like a disclosable magic trick, or would you rather just leave the mystique to the figment of the imagination of how that worked?
It's funny that you brought that up because before when I was searching through my drawers of something I wanted to show, I was like, should I tell them how this works or should I keep the mystique? And I think I should keep the mystique. I
Gotcha.
do. It's the number one rule of it. But You know what's cool about this? There's a lot of different versions of this. This one's just one that you can carry in your pocket, and it's a heavy
Gotcha.
brass box. Maybe I'll bring this to Acceleration Days and let people play with it because it's a real brass box.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah,
Awesome. Well,
yeah,
before we bounce, Max, one of my favorite parts of a vendor voice is the fun facts finale. And the
yes.
fun facts finale, Max, is going to be a series of questions rapid fire. I'm going to hit you
All right,
fast and hard. So
all right.
get squared away, man. This is going to come
I'm
at
gonna
you really
stretch out
fast.
for
So
it.
have
All
a
right,
lot of fun here. Okay, you ready?
all
If you
right.
could
I'm
only
ready.
wear one color for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, black.
Definitely go with black. Okay. What is a childhood food that you either secretly or not so secretly love?
Oh, grilled cheese.
Oh, grilled cheese. You had to
Had
have some cheese in it,
to
right?
have cheese.
Yeah. If you could only eat one restaurant chain, and by the way, I know in the Big Easy there are tons of great little restaurants in and around that you're not going to find anywhere else. But if you had to eat at a restaurant chain for the rest of your life, which one would you pick?
Oh, this is a really tough one. Um, okay, there is a famous chain that started in China and now it's mostly on the west coast of the US called Heidi Lao. It's a hot pot place, which is like a boiling pot of hot soup, and you
Okay.
dip all your seafood into it. I'm not like a big fast food type of guy, but this is what would be probably good for me. It's hot pot, spicy, mouth's
Heck,
on fire.
heck
I go
yeah.
there all the time.
Good. All right, cool. So I'm gonna ask you this one.
Okay.
Uh, if you could have an a dinosaur pet, which one would you have?
Oh, this is a tough one. Probably, and if I know all the names, that would be cool. Probably, oh, what's it called? I can't remember the name of it. It's the one that flies and
The
like almost
the
looks like a
pter
dragon.
the pterodactyl?
Pterodactyl.
There
Yeah,
you go. All
I was
right.
confusing pterodactyl and velociraptor, but yeah,
I,
pterodactyl.
I
That
mean,
would
it's
be
kind of
awesome.
like a flying velociraptor, isn't it? It's like a
Yeah,
velociraptor with wings.
yeah, exactly.
All right, cool. So here's the next, and I love this one. You ready?
Yeah.
If aliens landed tomorrow
Mhm.
and they sought you out and asked you to show them one thing that explained humanity, what would you show them?
Probably that magic trick. No, probably a magic trick though, for sure. You know, what I love most about magic is that it has this like awe-inspiring that humans can do the impossible type of thing. And I
Mm.
think that that's what we are, you
All
know.
right, well, that'll be the last of my fun facts finale, but I am curious since you are
Yeah.
a student of
Yeah.
magic,
Yeah.
who do you think was better, Copperfield or Houdini?
That's a great question. Copperfield and Houdini are extremely different. Houdini made like really big changes in the way that he called out fake seance people and, you know, was doing magic during the Depression when people felt like they couldn't break out of what was going on during the Great Depression, and did tricks where he would be put in handcuffs in a box and dropped in the river and he would escape, and people would see that as a metaphor for, you know, escaping poverty. That's
Ah,
amazing.
I got
However,
you. Hey, by the way, I did not know that. I did not know. This is why we love
yeah.
doing these, okay? All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, that was a big part of his career, is escaping poverty and the metaphor behind it. On the other side of it, Copperfield is like the largest magic collector that ever lived and has a giant warehouse of secret stuff that really you can't see. And he's done a lot for the art in that regard, as well as being, as far as I know, the greatest selling artist that ever lived. Like in terms of number of tickets sold, I truly, and you could look it up because I could be wrong now, but last time I looked it up, he was the greatest selling artist of all time. He doesn't work
Wow.
like 2 days a year. It's like Christmas Day and one other day are the only times he doesn't do shows. So they're both absolutely incredible for their own kind of reasons.
All
But
right.
yeah.
I'm going to leave you with this little thing. You may or may not have known this, but off of one of the islands in the Bahamas in Exuma, David Copperfield has an island. And at the bottom of the ocean, outside of his house, he has a mermaid that is sitting at a baby grand piano that is like 20 feet deep on the bottom of the ocean. And it's a known thing. I just wanted you to know about this since you're big into magic. It's a known thing that if you go and visit, they let you do this because it's off of his property out in the ocean. people swim down and rub the mermaid for good luck.
Wow. I did
There you
not
go.
know.
So I've personally seen this and done this. So I just want to throw that on the record. I don't know any magic tricks at all, but that's the only connection I got to magic.
That's amazing. No,
Uh,
it's good to
awesome.
be a viewer, someone who enjoys watching magic.
Uh,
That's good.
Max, so
Yeah.
so much, so grateful today for our time together, for our listeners and viewers. Remember, Benchmark Payments here to help you assist and build and grow your business. Reach out to Max and his team for more information about how they can help you build and grow your business. And we look forward to seeing you guys again in future Vendor Voices.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Max. Thank you so much for those of you that are connecting with us by way of video. You're finding value in the videos that we provide for you here on this channel. We want to thank you so much for tuning in. And I want you to remember this. If you've enjoyed this video and you've learned something of value that you can implement into either your business or your personal life or both, and you want to hear more, I want you to stay tuned for this next video.